Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid.
Hashtag look it up. Hashtag look it up. Hashtag look it up.
What is this? Where am I? Let's make deposits into the bank of knowledge. Welcome back to the Trebles Show, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I am Trebles Garcia, your humble host, and I want to give thanks to the Lord for allowing me to be here today, and I want to thank every single one of you for allowing me to enter your space. Guys, if you haven't already done so, drop a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. That allows other people to enjoy the show as much as I enjoy making it. And if you're on YouTube, like, share, and subscribe. Today, you guys are the lifeline of the YouTube channel. I'm surprised it's still stuck around, guys. I'm very happy, and I'm very passionate about what I do. So you guys leaving an engagement, maybe just a like or maybe a comment or comment on each other's stuff. There's a couple haters there too. Make sure you let them know what's up. Lit them up, light them up, and be the frequency today. And do not forget that for $11, you could cough up liminal trees on Amazon and $4 for Kindle. It's not about trees being portals. It's about pattern recognition, and you could apply that on every single day of your life. Not only that, I'm working on a second edition, giving you guys a 4th chapter and better spacing with better editing because people were complaining about the editing. Sorry, I'm not perfect. Anyway, let's jump in from the deep end of the pool and set the freaking mood. My next special guest is no stranger to the danger. He hasn't been here before, so it's his first time around. Todd Cave, he hosts the amazing show, The Conscious Man 7. What's up, big dog?
I'm all right, fella. And yourself?
I'm all right, man. Good to have you here. Good to see you, bro. I love your t-shirt. Let me see your t-shirt real quick. Oh, sure. That is badass, man. Your logo is amazing, by the way, bro. That's awesome.
Thank you, man. I must give credit to the guy. I think it's called the dorky nerd or something like that. He's the guy that designed the logo for Meta and Cult of Conspiracy. When I went out there, sure. Jonathan hooked me up, and what he brought back to me, I was like, oh yes, definitely, this is fire. So I just ran with it. So thanks, man.
Shout outs to Jonathan from Meta and Jacob and Raven from the Cult of Conspiracies. Guys, there was just a recent episode we did together. You could find it either on my channel or on their channel. I really want you guys to show some support to their channel. So go to Meta today and go to Cult of Conspiracies today and get your third eye open. Mad shout outs to the boys out there. Yo, where can people find you? Conscious Man 7, let's go.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Adriano_246. Used to be on Facebook at the name Todd Cave, but we got banned this weekend for, I don't know, I'm trying to figure out exactly why. So yeah, if anyone from Facebook is listening, yeah, hit us up and find out what's going on there, because I was just verifying my ID, and then, not my ID, my face, I had to do a selfie verification, and for some reason, I don't know, during the upload, it got rejected, and that was it. So there's only one Todd Cave out there that does what he does, and that's me. So, but other than that, you can find the Conscious Man 7 on pretty much everywhere. But I upload to Spreaker, and I do upload to Rumble and YouTube and BitChute and all of those video hosted podcasts as well. We also have some amazing guests over there. I just had on Max Egan and Jeff Berwick, and we're looking to keep leveling up and keep bringing on some amazing guests to have powerful conversations that touch, move, and inspire people to realize that they do have a choice in this matter. We don't have to just sit down and take what is being given to us, but we need to do work on ourselves, and this is what I do on the daily. I help spiritually inclined men burn fat and build muscle. I help you to level up in all areas of your life, and I do coach girls as well. But as a man, I coach men. I cater to men simply because I see that men are the ones that have to set the example. But I do have some awesome girls that I coach, and they are crushing it, getting into really good shape as well. So we don't discriminate over here, but I speak to men because I think that men are the ones that need to pull their socks up and really make the change, because we're the leaders and we're the ones that need to set the example. So yeah, Instagram at Adriana_246, the Conscious Man 7 podcast on all digital platforms. Thanks for having me here, brother. I'm looking forward to really chatting to you today.
Check on your dudes. Dudes' lives matter. That is something that we've been saying on this channel for a very long time. Hashtag look it up. Guys, men's mental health is extremely important, and I agree with everything that you say. You got to talk to men sometimes. Sometimes we just need to belong, and that is 1000% true. I myself, I've endured most of the hardship already. I think I've gone through the biggest hurdle emotionally, with the separation of my wife and fighting from my child's custody, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of like it's emotionally draining. And I've been there, guys. I had a Beretta to my mouth 2 months ago. I know. I've been there. I've heard the voices. I've heard the attacks, the spiritual attacks, the low frequency thinking patterns, and I was there. So when I mean when he says he talks and caters to men is because we are under attack on all different levels. I'm not just a conspiracy theorist. This is not just a conspiracy theory. This is conspiracy reality, guys. We are attacked in all different ways. So just the top 5 episodes that you can find on his channel today is CBDC's collapse of the digital prison. The second one was digital slavery. Then he has the digital HD trap. And then he has why empowerment fails most people. And then another one that I really like, it goes, why college is failing our kids. So his conversations are very rooted on realism. And also, I bet he brings a solution to the floor. So if you guys like type of content like that, make sure you check him out. The description of the show. And then the link is also going to be there on the show. Now, tell me about you, bro. You like psychedelics. You're all about the body. Tell me, boy, what was the pivotal moment in your life that you said, like, okay, I got to do this for a living, and I got to do this, and I got to spread this message about psychedelics. What have psychedelics done to you? What was the most impactful moment in your life? Share with us, please.
Wow. Okay. So that's a very loaded question for me, for the people that know me, but I'll try my best to condense it. So the pivotal moment in my life was when I had surgery on my ankle in 2017, and that caused a series of dominoes in my life to fall.
Wow.
And basically, to give context, at that time, I was at the height of my career. I was doing well, earning good money, traveling, having loads of fun, living life. Bruh, I was like, you know how they say, like you're living your best life? That was pretty much me at the time.
Oh,
And basically, that surgery came and caused a series of dominoes in my life to fall, as I said. And it was event after event and circumstance after circumstance that really pushed me to realized that one, my life in England was coming to an end, and my career as a civil engineer was coming to an end. So
wow.
I pretty much, yeah, because I was a civil engineer, that's what I went to university to do, and I thought I would be a civil engineer for the rest of my life. And I loved building. At that time, I was working on the biggest construction project in Europe called the Crossrail Project, and that was like
Wow.
16 billion pounds at the time. So I was like flying in my career, and you know what I mean, just living life well. And
Wow, dude. You're flying too
yeah,
close to the sun, huh?
well, you could say that, figuratively. And basically, as you know, every month and every couple of months went by, it was just like another hit, another hit, another hit. And that hit took me to the point where like I was like, okay, I need something different in my life.
Hmm.
And I was said on my interview with Jeff Berwick, when I heard his announcement of an Acapulco 2019, and this was in 2018, I
Uh-huh.
said, all right, I bought the ticket and that's it. I'm going because I know that I was going to be able to access ayahuasca there at the conference in
Hmm.
Acapulco. And I went there in 2019 and did ayahuasca, and then subsequently went back to Mexico to do ayahuasca again. And basically, what happened is during the transcourse of like just trying to find myself, because I was doing another project at the time, I was doing email marketing, and I had just gotten a client and everything was going well. And then that relationship ended,
Hmm.
and it was like another hit. So it was like all of these, like 2 years consistently getting hit after hit after hit. And then I had basically prior to that, I had done like a business course on to do fitness training, but it was basically a business system that you could adapt to pretty much any online business.
Hmm.
And basically, I would never forget, it was like September 2019, and the voice, because that's what I call it, the voice spoke to me. I was in front of my mirror standing, and the voice said to me, you can come back to Mexico, you're going to do fitness training, and that's what it's going to be. So
Wow.
I wrestled with myself for 2, 3 hours of talking. I was standing in front of the mirror, Trebles. So this is like an open
Wow.
body experience, looking at yourself in the mirror, asking yourself questions like, is this actually real or happening? Am I losing my mind? And
Mm.
my higher self just asked me, well, what is really real? And you know what I mean? And it kept asking me questions like that. So after 2.5, 3 hours, like I said, arguing with myself of why not to do it, I just said, okay. I said, okay, we can do it. And then 20, I think it was like end of October 2019 is when I became the fitness guy.
Mm.
But during that period, like I was reading a lot of books and doing a lot of psychedelics as well, bufo, peyote, did LSD, magic mushrooms. I started to grow spiritually, but in a way that I couldn't understand at the time because I was finding all this
Mm.
information, getting these downloads, reading all these books, listening to all these podcasts. But for me, it was just like overwhelming. Whereas, like, why am I finding all of these things, and why am I able to understand these things? So
Mm.
it was always like for me, just like, okay, I know that the world is fake, I get that, but why am I finding all of these books? Why
Mm.
am I finding all these podcasts? And why do I have so many questions about life?
Wow.
Yeah, dude. So it was like me wrestling with myself on the inside and at the same time teaching fitness online, on social media. And then I had a pivotal conversation with one of my coaches, and she asked me, "But Todd, like social media is supposed to be social." I said, "But it's
Mm.
just for business." She says, "Yeah, but people still have to like know a bit about you. So she asked me, like, what do you like? And I never forget, I said to her, I like reading books, I like pretty girls, and I like talking about consciousness and spirituality and stuff. She says, well, just talk about those things. I said, but I'm a fitness trainer. Like, I'm a coach. Like, how can a
Mm.
coach be talking about these things? She says, well, have you ever tried it? I said, no, but that's not how we were taught to do what we do. She says, I know that that's not how we were taught, but I'm telling you that this is what you should do.
Wow.
Said, okay, because at the time she was like a six-figure earner, and I was like, okay, well, I'll just try it. So I
Mm.
started to write about books and everything like that. Like if people go back to my early posts, like 2001, 2021, 2022, I've written about a lot of the books I've read. I started to write a lot of like very spiritual and sort of like post decrypting the system that we live in, right? To
Huh.
explain what we live in. So
There you go.
I started, excuse me, way back then, and again, dude, I was like Mr. Unpopular because no one was really resonating with that information, but I just kept going because I felt inside of me that this is what
That
I,
was you. Mm.
yes,
Mm.
because I was actually being true to myself in actually talking about the things that resonate with me, the things
Wow.
that align with me, even though it was like super unpopular, where I know that people that were in the fitness community and stuff would say, dude, you're mad, you should be just talking only about fitness. But
Mm.
from then, I saw that fitness is just the gateway and the portal to actually higher levels of consciousness. Because what I realized is that the body is the real trinity. The real trinity
Mm.
is the body, the mind, and the spirit, because we are a mind, body, spirit complex. And because of that, you need to actually work on all three aspects of you at the
Wow.
same time simultaneously, right? So basically, what happened is that when I was coaching, I used to realize that my clients would get really good results in the beginning, but what would happen is that they all would fall off. And I couldn't figure out why. And I kept seeing this same pattern over and over and over.
Uh-oh. Mm.
So what happened is that I started to, I don't know, again, the voice just came in and the voice said to me, well, Todd, why don't you teach people to do exactly what you do? And I wrestled with this thought experiment for a while. And I was like, but I do things like meditation. The voice said, okay. I do things like reading books. I said,
Mm.
okay. And I
The
said,
lifestyle. Hmm.
correct. And then I do things like salsa dancing. He says, okay. So why don't you introduce into your programs those things? So I was like, okay. So I tried it with one client and he was able to maintain his consistency.
Mm.
And then also I had another client that I beta tested calisthenics with because I was practicing calisthenics personally, but not teaching it right
Mm.
into my programs and clients. And what I like about calisthenics is that in order to do it, you have to do mental visualization, which is
Hmm.
what basically is you practice doing the exercise in your mind. So this puts you into a meditative state, an altered state temporarily for you to be
Mm.
able to perform the exercise.
Mm.
And he also got really good results from that. So I was like, all right, I had two clients that had good results from two different parts of me. So I
Ah.
just started to put them all together. And then from 2024, I started to really go heavy on the mind body spirit complex and talking openly about psychedelics and me all these kind of things because again, these are things that I do in my life to help me to navigate through this matrix and the minefield that we live in. And basically, what happened at the same time is that in 2021, my mate, he was studying to be a shaman.
Mhm.
So he was his shaman, his teacher's wife was linked into an Acapulco, the same conference that I went to 2019
Mm.
to go to participate in. And basically, he said to her, why don't you get taught to speak at your digital summit? She was like,
Mm.
why? Do you ever never heard of what stuff that Todd talks about? She's like, no. She says, all right, well, we have a spiritual day coming up, so I'll just invite him on. Never listened to anything. She just took a punt on me because he recommended her to me. And that's how my entire podcasting sort of like career
Wow.
started because I spoke at the digital summit, got good feedback from people. I asked her to speak in 2022 physically at an Acapulco when I was in
Mm.
Acapulco. People loved it. I spoke in 2023. And then between 2022 and 2023, I did like 25 different podcasts, like going, just being as a guest. And then
Mm.
2024, the voice came in again and said to me, do podcasts, do podcasts, do podcasts, and woke me out of my sleep. And then that's how
Mhm.
the Conscious Man 7 was born because it again was not something that I wanted to do. In fact, I avoided it for a long time because
Mm.
as a fellow podcaster yourself, you know the amount of work required to bring up one episode a week
1000%. Yeah.
and do your day job at the same time.
Mm.
And my
Mhm.
day job is managing clients.
Mhm.
So messages, meal plans, training programs, checking calls, and then doing podcasts as well. It gets super busy for me
Mhm.
really easily. So
Mhm.
yeah, basically that's how like the Conscious Man 7 was born, and then like my sort of like system and structure of coaching in terms of like aligning the mind, the body, and the spirit together was born just from the conversation I had with my coach at the time in 2022 and or 2021. Yeah, 2021, 2022. And then basically over time of, just refining and discovering more stuff, then I just became more like who I am today because of just like I've probably done like maybe 1,000 videos by now.
It seems like so. Allow me to inject here. Forgive me if I interrupted, but it seems like your life was taking a was ev- developing and also adapting at the same time, mirroring the life and adaptability of your clients at the same time. So you were doing a quick mirror check every single time you had to make a change at the mirror, but also with your clients' life. And it became something where you grew together with these people as you were making that connections. That is a beautiful testimony. I love it. Some of us have different callings, bro. I'm telling you, man. And that was yours. Yours was to not only awaken people, but impact people in a positive manner, even if it was just your clients, even if it was just a couple hundred or a couple thousand, soon to be millions, right? You never know. Tomorrow it could snap and become something bigger for you. So, great testimony, bro. You mentioned some key things that I took away from your story. Now that we have the story, we're gonna do the next 20 minutes of some nitty gritty, dirty talk. Here we go. Conspiracy theories. You said something about the Matrix, something about hacking. You said also something that you were able to navigate this minefield. What is this Matrix minefield that you're talking about, bro? Break it down, bro. I know what you're gonna say, but I want you to say
So
it.
this matrix, from all of the research that I have done, it seems to be an artificial construct. And it appears that many, many thousands of years ago, a group of beings that are not from Earth. So they go by many different names, but the names that we will use today will be the Anuna gods or the Anunnaki. It appears that they came to Earth about 450,000 years ago. And when they came here, they came for resources. Now, the work was hard to toil the land and to extract the resources. And what they did is that they created a race to be a slave race. And they wanted the slave race to be just smart enough that they could understand the instructions and not too smart to be able to outsmart them and to be able to realize that they were actually slaves and to actually one up them, right?
So,
And they're
doesn't it sound like something today? Doesn't it sound like
absolutely.
something's happening today? Yeah.
Dude, the thing about it, right? What is so fascinating with this matrix is that truth doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it rhymes. And I'm gonna go a little bit deep into certain topics here that might cause some people who are very, very religious to get upset. But I can back up all the stuff I say because of we looked at these things. An example of that, what I just said, that they didn't want us too smart, was in the story in the Old Testament where, quotation marks, God said, let us confuse man so that he is no longer able to speak the same language, right?
Mm,
Now, if
mhm,
man had one language, it means that information would have been easily shared amongst us.
mhm,
However, if you speak different languages, for example, the people that are in China or Russia today, or say Kazakhstan, you know what I mean, any non-English speaking country, the vast
mhm,
majority of those people will not be able to participate in this conversation because they don't speak English, right?
mhm, mhm,
So it means then that transfer of knowledge and information will be impacted. So it means that you have silos and groups of people that develop and grow at different stages, right? So
mhm,
that was just one part of it. So if God is supposed to be a loving God and a kind God and a compassionate God, why would he say let us? Which is another thing that people don't realize. Who is
mhm,
us? Who's us? I
mhm,
thought God was singular, right?
mhm,
But
mhm,
I digress there a little bit. But that is another next confirmation of the story that I said, where in these Sumerian tablets, where these Anuna gods created a slave race, which is us, to toil the world, and that would be it. Now,
mhm,
what ended up happening is that when they created us, when you look into the Gnostic text, it appears that when they created us, they made a mistake where they realized that we had the potential to be greater than them. Because what happened is that we were the perfect creation to be like the God man. What I mean by
mhm,
that is that we would be able to invoke all of our powers because through the I am, which is what Yehoshua spoke through, that's how he was
mhm,
able to declare his God self. The I
mhm,
am, anything you say after that means that you manifest that thing. So we
mhm,
have the ability through the spark of divinity in us to invent and create whatever possibility that we want through our invocations, our words, our thoughts, and our beliefs.
mhm,
So
mhm,
what happened is that when they created us and they realized that, oh gosh, these guys actually have the potential to be even better than us, they did a systematic sort of like plan to dumb down and to reduce our consciousness.
Say
So
that again, bro. Say
it,
that again, man.
the steps that were taken are when you really look in the architecture are nothing but sheer amazing. So the Zulu tribes and some of the Native American tribes talk about there was no moon prior to a few thousand years ago. And basically, the moon appears to be an artificial construct where it's either a Death Star, it's a hollowed out planet, a hollowed out warship, but it is not what it is, and it appears to be a hologram. And what that moon is doing is transferring the energy from Saturn, because Saturn has been corrupted and taken over by negative energies and forces, and the energy from Saturn is being beamed to the moon, and the moon is a transportation or transfer station for that energy, frequency, and consciousness. When you combine that the Anuna gods appear to have injected things into us like a worship gene, this has been found out, I think, in
1000% worshiping. Yeah.
Yep. And then when you look at some of the other genetic modifications that they did to humans, they kept our telomeres and they fused chromosome 2 together. Those are absolute facts. Now, here is the thing. When you go back to the Sumerian tablets, it documents a time of up to 450,000 years ago. But there's some tablets in particular that I want people to look at, and they're called the Sumerian Kings list. And you have the first 8 immortal kings that ruled for a total of 241,200 years. After that, all the reigning of the kings were 1,500 years and less, right? Even in the Bible, Methuselah, he was also a god king. He lived for 969 years, right? So he was the longest holding person in the Bible. Now, what that story in the Bible is one of the seedings of earth after a reset, because there were many resets. So the Sumerian tablets for the 241,200 years captured that period. And after that period, which is where it became the kingdom of Kish, that was when humans were, I would say, in this present form in terms of lifespan ability. Now, when we look at science, science has shown us that the genetic modification that was made in our DNA is circa 200,000 years plus. So 241,200 years and 200,000 years circa, what is 40 somebody thousand years between friends, right? You know what I mean? The time span is long enough, and the science says that the mutation is not natural. It was externally done, right?
Huh.
So the matrix that we live in is so multifaceted, where, because, as I said before, we're a mind, body, spirit complex, they had to destroy us mentally, physically, and spiritually.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if you think about it, at the moment, human beings live at maximum 120 years, right? Now, in 120 years, I would say that a human being is now starting to understand life and consciousness and stuff like that, right? If we die or we expire at that age or before, it means that you are not able to grow on a soul level, right? Because you were still like babies, we're still on training wheels. So they attacked us physically by changing our DNA so that we can't live for a long time. Then, secondly, they injected worship genes into us so that, because they had all this technology and knowledge, we saw them as gods, so we worship them. And then when you look at it now, they injected other things like religion, because all the religions on earth are man-made. None of these religions are from God. Are the people that were inspired by God? Yes. But this is the thing. We weren't there when these books were written, so we don't have 100,000% truth that what is being said to us today is what actually took place. However, you can look at patterns, you can look at symbology, and you can read between the lines of the stories that are being told, and learn that we're not being told the truth. And what we're being told is that we are sort of like terrible creatures. We are born with sin. We are not worthy of God's love. And we have to do all of these rituals and things in order to get God's love. Then when you actually look on another level, they change history so that we don't know that we were great beings before. So what they've done now is that they actually bombard us with negative energy through programming.
Mhm.
Then they cut our connection from source through religion. Then they downgrade our DNA so that we are not able to really grow and understand life. Then what they do is they put scarcity into our consciousness by introducing things like money, because money is really called Babylonian magic. Money only came into existence really in Babylonian times. And the
Wow.
people who say they're Jews aren't really Jews. They're the ones that
Wow.
actually were the favor of the god at the time, which was Moloch, Baal, Baal, Beelzebub, Marduk, you know what I mean, from the Anunnaki pantheon. So they had favor from him. So they got a lot of this knowledge. But even in the Anunnaki pantheon, there are factions upon factions upon factions, which is what we have today on Earth. We have, for example, you have NATO, which is one group of countries. Then you have people that are NATO that are in alliances with other people, other countries, and then another person, that alliance will be another alliance with another
Mob
person.
groups.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. So what we have now is a matrix which is artificially constructed, which is not really
Relabeled,
real.
repackaged, resold.
Absolutely. So this is why humans today are confused, because the religions that are supposed to give us salvation lead us to desperation and feel and not having a connection with source. The food that we're eating today has no nutritional value. So it's actually deteriorating the body faster than the DNA upgrades quotation marks that they did to us. And then when you look in terms of a consciousness level, we don't even know who we are or what we are, because consciousness just really means knowledge of self. This is why Yehoshua said the most important thing is to know thyself. You know?
I'm going to inject here. It's very important. You don't even have to look back in time to realize that you were altered in a 3-level matrix. You don't have to. You just look at today, your modern day. Music, TV, food, all designed to disturb your peace, to make you live in fear, and also make you docile. 15-minute cities. You live in rebar constructed concrete jungles where you are not able to ground yourself, first of all, with nature. You can't collect rainwater because it's illegal. And you forgot how to grow your freaking own food following the same sequence that your ancestors did. You forgot to remember yourself. So then after that, then you start not only allowing these influences to take over your mind, body, and soul by living in a low level frequency, by becoming parts of these negative habits, drug dealing, alcohol abuse, domestic violence, and many different other things. And that's just on the surface level. In the subconscious level, there's another level thing too, because you are part of that same cycle. You're addicted to the money. You need the money. You have Stockholm syndrome, and then you go around chipping yourself, giving more power to the powers that be. And then you give it to your toddlers. And then you're pissed off why your toddler shows up with anxiety attacks and other psychotic problems because of the downgrading of their DNA that you just allowed with them with this liquid crystal glass technology, LCD screens, etc. And etc. And etc. And it's just, it cycles through. You don't even need to look back there. The matrix is right here, right now. This is what you have to shatter through. So you mentioned a lot of things that are negative in a spectrum of negativity. How do we break out? Positive.
That's a
How do
good question.
we, right? Where do we start?
So the first thing that we need to do, and the first place I would say, is to actually, and I mean this literally as well, look at yourself in the mirror. Because as Michael Jackson says, you know, you want to change, you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change. So the first thing that we need to realize is that we cannot change the world. We cannot. I repeat, we cannot change the world.
I say that all the time.
There's only one thing a human being can do, and that is to change himself. And when I say himself, I mean collectively in terms of herself as well, because we're using it as a collective context. The human being must look at himself in the mirror, literally, and ask himself some very hard questions. Who am I? What am I? And where did I come from? And if you can't answer these three powerful questions, then that's where you need to start to ask yourself other questions. What is my purpose? Why am I here? What do I want to do on myself? How am I contributing to society? Because one of the things, because I touched on the Babylonian magic called money, and what money has done is that money has created a scarcity, lack of, and poverty complex in man. And in reality, when we understand our true God self, we actually don't really need money because we are able to create whatever we want. And I mean that on a literal level. Now, getting back to the man in the mirror, if you can't answer any of these questions, then this is where you actually need to start to ask yourself, well, how can I find out these things? So the first thing I would say is that you've listened to this show, so you've made the first conscientious step to step through that door. Because what I've realized from coaching for the last few years, having hundreds of conversations with clients, is that most people, and I put myself in there as well because it still happens to me, we are afraid of the unknown. And we hold on to the thing that we think is the thing that's for us.
Emotionally tied to it too, yeah.
Absolutely. When deep down, we know that that thing doesn't serve us. And there's a very good book called the Bhagavad Gita, and it talks about the story of Krishna and his student Arjuna. And he told Arjuna that the biggest challenge that man has is attachments to things. And he said to Arjuna that you need to be able to look at a lump, a piece of gold, the same way you look at a lump of rock, right? He says you need to be able to throw away that gold the same way that you throw away that lump of rock. Because he says, if not, you will actually be tied to that thing and you would not get any freedom, right? So that is the first thing that we need to do, because attachments are the things that cause you to self-sabotage, right? And that self-sabotage, I think, is the biggest existential threat to man, right?
Wow.
Not nuclear weapons, not vaccines. Self-sabotage, I think, is the biggest existential threat, because what happens is that from the place of self-sabotage is why we do those things. Because if you think about it, if the leaders decide that they want to do nukes, right, they're really just destroying not only the planet but themselves. That is self-sabotage. So if you go and inject,
it's a mutual destruction type of thing.
Correct. You go and inject yourself with lethal poison, with these things called jabs. That is
or cereal.
self-sabotage.
Or cereal with red dye.
That is self-sabotage. So self-sabotage is the biggest existential threat in man. So
may I add?
May
I add? Self-sabotage. We've just recently, I found out that there is a baseline of pain that we all allow in our body, mind, and soul to navigate and to just make it through one more day. Look at yourself in the mirror today. Listeners, please, hashtag look it up. Don't take my word for it. And then ask yourself those questions. You'll start finding out that you start attaching yourself to things that hurt you, that you don't really love, that you just got accustomed to, that you just think that's what reality is about, and you just have to go through it. You don't have to go through it. You go through it because you're accustomed to it, addicted to it in many ways. This is why people smoke weed or drink alcohol. It's an allergic reaction. It's funny because it's a disease. And there's a baseline of pain. You're a masochist. That's what you are. That's what I am. That's what we all are. Everybody that's taking part of this matrix and inducing this amount of base level pain at a very minimal amount. It could be microdosing pain, but we all do it by taking part of this matrix, by not trying to change our habits or building new neurological pathways, new thought patterns, and stopping our evil thoughts and inducing pain on other people, because it's a chain reaction. It's very important, bro. Sorry, go ahead.
Absolutely. And the thing about pain is that I've had to accept this. And what Lao Tzu said is absolutely true. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. Self-sabotage creates the suffering. The human beings, from what I have come to realize, is that we need some level of pain, but there's nuance. So let me give you the nuance. If the pain that you're going through gives you a growth, a development, a level up, or whatever word you want to use, that you are in a better position than before, that is good pain. Because what happens is that human beings need pressure in order to grow. Diamonds are formed from pressure, right? And we become the diamond when we're able to withstand pressure. Human beings, if you give us the easy life, make things soft and everything, we become weak, slow, docile, and we become what we are today. We become what we are today because life was too good, and now we have hard times. And now the strong men and women have to rise because they're being squeezed. And this is what the Matrix is doing. The Matrix is a false reality because everything we see is fake. Our history is
Wow.
fake, the food is fake, the money is fake, the religion is fake, the government is fake, the education system is fake, the legal system is fake. Everything is fake, right? So what that means then is that the human has to try to navigate and figure out what is all of this, which is why I said you start with the man in the mirror. So getting back to what I was saying about some of the solutions is that you need to start to look for people who resonate with you, who can teach you how to navigate the matrix. Because this is the
Wow.
thing, while it is possible to do this journey on your own, you need to have a positive mentor, coach, or influence in your life to teach you these things quickly. Because I don't want to scare people, but we are in the last days right now. There is no time. The time is yesterday. Do it
Woo.
now. Look for
Mm,
people who resonate with you, who are trustworthy and
mm,
credible, people that are out there putting themselves on the line,
mm.
walking the walk and talking the talk at the same
Oh
time.
man, look at that.
Because what we have today are a lot of grifters and scammers, or people that are just looking for a buck,
Mm.
right? And a lot of the people out there that are big celebrities and big names who we think are the real deal aren't. And I know that you know that because you've been in podcast game for longer than me. And
Oh
I'm
yeah.
telling you, when you go into the podcast arena, you see it. A lot of these people there with big platforms are fake, right?
Let me. I'm gonna drop that tidbit just to amplify that part of the message. In my recovery group, there's people that you would think and get starstruck in the podcast community that have the same issues with drinking and substance abuse that you and I have, regular old folks. Why am I saying that? I'm not gonna drop names because it's not right to drop the name, but why am I saying that? Saying it because they're not perfect. They're just like you and I. And unfortunately, they've been consumed, digested, and puked back out by the system, and which is why they're in a recovery class at the same time with me. So you're right.
Yeah,
You can't get
bro.
starstruck. Yeah.
You can't get starstruck. So you need to look for people. And this is the thing. This is the other thing that I want to, give a little nuance to what you said there as well. Because we're all humans and none of us are perfect, we all make mistakes. But this is the thing. The man, the adult, the woman who's able to put their hand up and say, I made a mistake, is the bigger person and take
Wow.
accountability for those mistakes. Because none of us are perfect. The only way that we learn, and I got this download. First, you get the challenge, then you get the the knowledge from overcoming the challenge, and then you get the wisdom. You can't get the wisdom without the pain or the challenge. You actually have to have the experience. So when you find coaches, just remember that they're people as well. So not that you put them on a pedestal, but they must be have walked the path. They must be able to have a track record of teaching and helping people. And not only that, you must resonate with them, or they must resonate with you, right?
Mhm.
Because no one is perfect. So we can't put people on a pedestal. However, what we must do is align ourselves with people that are out there putting their necks on the line and doing things, physically doing things and trying to make a change. Because a lot of people out there say they're trying to make a change, but they're bought and paid for. They're either paid opposition, right?
Mm.
Or they have been starstruck, like you said, or they never were really into it in the first place and they're only doing it for a buck, right? And there are very few genuine people out there. And real knows real, you know?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
the thing is that when you get a coach or mentor or guide, someone can teach you how to level up quickly and to navigate through the system, you're going to get results faster. Because I can break down some stuff here for people that, and this is not to scare people, but this is to give a reality check. What is going on in the world right now has the potential to really, really cause huge amounts of pain on planet Earth right now. And I'm talking about this whole saga in the Strait of Hormuz.
Mhm.
So it takes about 20 to 30 days for most of those container ships to leave a destination to get through the Hormuz to the destination that they want. It takes another 25 to 30 days to load up those container ships. And then it takes another 30 days on their journey. So we're talking about, depending on where they are, 60 to 90 days from door to door, right? A complete
Mhm.
revolution from the
Mhm.
start to the end. If we don't have a change by a situation by the end of this month, we're going to have massive, massive problems. So let me give some context for you to understand. About 40% of all fertilizer passes through the Strait of Hormuz. About 10% of all oil passes through there. But it's not just the oil, it's the oil products as well. Plastics, emulsifiers, all those other things that are derivatives of petroleum. So what has happened is that all the countries have been using their reserves. So when the reserves run out and there's nothing coming, it means we're going to have food rationing, we're going to have energy rationing, we're going to have a situation that is going to go back to what we were talking about in the Sumerian tablets, where it was one of the resets. And if anyone wants to get context, if you read a book called the Enuma Elish, it talks about when the Anuna gods were trying to wipe out humanity, they created a famine. Listen to this. This is wild. They sprayed stuff in the atmosphere to create droughts, so to hold back the rain, and things got so, and then they told their people that were in the know to save up grain for 7 years, right? And what happened is that when things got so bad in that time, in that epoch, man started to eat their children, right? And I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen. I'm giving context to show you how history can rhyme and they're only repeating the same cycle. We have things being sprayed in the air today as what they were doing back then. This situation that we have in the Strait of Hormuz will have an impact. And basically, it started to affect countries in the East now more than on the Western side. But
Mhm.
come the end of the year, the Western side of the world will be affected. And we're going to see maybe 3 times the value in terms of energy costs, food
Mhm.
costs, and just
Mhm.
living costs. When you combine what is happening in the economy with lack of job creation, reliance on artificial intelligence,
Mhm.
and basically all the other debaucherous stuff going on in the world, we are coming to a pinch point where humanity is going to get to see very, very dark days. And what you're going to have to rely on is your inner strength, your connection to source, your belief in yourself. This is why getting into shape mentally, physically, and spiritually are super
Wow.
important.
Mhm.
Because what is going to happen is that the habits that you build today, the habits you build now, were the things that you're going to have to rely on when things get really difficult. Because when things get really dark and dense, the last thing someone is thinking about is doing meditation. The last thing someone is thinking about is doing any form of exercise because they're depressed. The last thing people can be thinking about is trying to eat as well as they can.
Oh, yeah.
So when you build up the mindset and the belief in yourself through your habits and doing things like exercise, meditation, and having good nutrition, you are going to reinforce yourself on a holistic level so that when the challenges come, because of the challenges you've had to go through in order to get to that state of well-being holistically, that mindset will transfer to the physical situation of when we have hard times with rations, energy shortages, food shortages, crime and violence, because this is going to be a test both mentally, physically, and spiritually. So the time to prepare is now. It was yesterday, actually. So I just wanted to give context for people where we need to start to prepare. This is why every week I tell people on my social media that they must start preparing. And that's why I speak to men, because men are the ones that are going to make the change in society, because we are the ones that are going to have to stand up against these psychopaths and say no. We're the ones that are going to have to, if need be, have pitchforks and hoes and axes and go against these people who are psychopaths that are trying to run the world, because they're weak. They live in fear. They fear us. Let me say that again. The reason why they're doing what they're doing is because they fear us, because they know that we're better than them. We are better people than them because they eat children. Let me say that again. They eat children and perform sexual rituals to harness the life source energy from children in order to get their power. This was shown to us in the Epstein files, right?
1,000%.
I've been saying this for years. And a lady, she reached out to me. She said, Todd, when I first hear you say that some time ago, I thought you were absolutely mad. But she says, I've come to realize that you seem to know a little bit about what is going on. And then after that, you know what I mean, she started to work with me as well, because she said, like, no, I realized I need to make a change in my life because, you know, things are going bad and I need to start to work on myself to prepare for what's to come. So I'm not saying these things to scare people. This is just a reality check that things have the potential to get really, really bad. And voting does not make a difference. What we need to do is not to vote altogether. Right now, it doesn't matter who we put in. And I have a very interesting experiment for people. If the next election cycle in whatever country it is, and 90% of people don't vote, and they come and bring out a leader because they got this amount of votes, that's when the people will realize the system is a fraud. It's fake. It's not real. Because government only has their power through belief and word magic. That's it.
Believe in word magic. Wow. You said a lot of key things. You're more of a conspiracy theorist than I am. We're running short on time here. I like them short and stubby, you know, and hit them hard. And that's what you did, bro. Yo, I like I like the when we did what we did. It's a full I want a spiral of I want to call it the golden ratio. I call it. We talk about you, the chunky part, how you made your changes, then what the problems are, and then what solutions we could present to the people. It's an uplifting episode, like I do every single episode. Please, on the way out, dude, let them know one more time where they can find you.
So you can find me on my Instagram at Adriana_246, and touch where they get about my Facebook. It'd be Todd Cave on Facebook. And guys, if you are ready to really make a change in your life and get into shape mentally, physically, and spiritually, I can help you to do that, because what we need are strong men and also strong women, because women are the support for the men. And we need to have the men out there doing the heavy lifting and the hard work. We need to have the support behind. So we need to still have conscious women
And
doing their
procreation,
work.
baby.
Absolutely. Because that's another thing that we didn't get to speak about today, but that is one of the other sort of things that
Issues.
issues we're not procreating. And basically, that is by design because they want to kill out the planet, right?
Wow.
So yeah, so then also if you like the kind of content that I spoke about today, You can find me at the Conscious Man 7. I released the Spreaker first and then they aggregate to all the other platforms, but you can find me on all major platforms. And if you are on a spiritual journey or you would like to start a spiritual journey and you'd like some help removing some fears and traumas, hit me up on my Instagram at Adriano_246 and I can help you to get some magic mushrooms because one of the things that we need to also grow is spiritually. And the magic mushrooms will help you to rewire your brain,
Wow.
you grow new neurons, new neural pathways. And when you combine that with a new habit like getting into shape, it's super, super powerful. So, Adriano_246, or if I get on my Facebook, Todd Cape on Facebook, and send me a message, help you to get some magic mushrooms. And also, if you like the work that we do and you want to support our show, I have a Patreon, I have a locals community, all with the name The Conscious Man 7. Just look me up on there. For a few bucks a month, you can help support us, help support the work we do, because we try to also get very powerful guests to come on our show and to talk, move, to inspire others, and to teach, inform, and to educate us on how to become better human beings. Because I cover all aspects of the evolution of human consciousness. So we talk about fitness, psychedelics, extraterrestrials, manifestation, mindset, nutrition. We talk about everything that is to deal with the evolution of human consciousness and the upliftment of the human itself, right? And then also lastly, if you like the cool shirt that I have on that I showed in the beginning of the show, you can find my merch store, Todd and Me, on Amazon. And yeah, we got some cool tank tops, hoodies, shirts, and sweats. And that also helps with the podcast. And also they're cool shirts as well, so you can become part of the Conscious Man 7 community. And if you do get one of these shirts or the tank tops, sweaters, whatever, take a picture of yourself, tag me on Instagram, or you can email it to me and I'll show you in one of my podcasts, or I'll big you up on one of my stories as well.
That's right.
Yeah, because we're out here trying to really help push forward, the message, because this is what I've been told I need to do, and hooking up with nice people like you. I'm really humbled that you invite me on your show, that I can, share some information with others, because, a lot of people today feel lost. A lot of people today feel there's no way out. And I know what it's like to have those very negative thoughts where you think, well, is this the end? And I'm here to tell all men and women this is not the end. There is a way back. And if you want to start your comeback, hit me up. I can help you on many levels. I do it through fitness because the body is the temple. And when you get the body strong, it means you can actually start to raise your energy. When you start to raise your energy, you start to receive more light. You start to get more connection to source. And then I will help navigate you on the mental part, because the mind is one of the biggest creative pieces of hardware that we have in the body. And then on a spiritual side, I can guide you on how to have a better connection with source so that you'll be able to tune into things like your intuition, because, those are the things that really matter, in going forward, because we're going to have to use different skills in terms of discernment, and intuition, especially for us men, is one of those things that we're going to have to learn how to develop and to use, because what I see and what is happening, because we are in evolution stage and more light is coming into the planet, and we're going to have different capabilities, and we will have more sensory ability. So what's going to happen is that we're going to start to see things, and magnificent things like portals in the sky opening up, and crafts coming in and out, and a lot of stuff that is going to like blow people off their chairs. So, we need to be prepared for that. And one of the things with psychedelics is when you start to go into your mind, when you see things like that, you just mean, all right, cool. You know what I mean? That was just something that I saw in my vision. And trust me, people, it's coming. And what's going to come is going to blow your mind, because the
People are
technology,
talking about it. People are talking about this, man. It's
yeah,
I feel like it's around the freaking corner. It's
it's
finally here. All of those sci-fi movies are finally here, man. I'm telling you.
yeah, yeah. And psychedelics definitely will help prepare you for that, because it's going to shock people.
Yeah.
So yeah, Guy, really honored, humbled, and blessed, and really thank you for inviting me on your show. And
Absolutely.
I think that I gave some people some solutions today because just like you, I do my shows the same way where we pass through the darkness and then at the end we give people solutions and how to bring more light into their lives. And you know, we need to have darkness, unfortunately, in order to, me embrace the light. And I'm just shining the light here and saying, hey, you may want to look over there. So
That's
hit me
right.
up if you're interested in, getting a higher level of self, mentally, physically, and spiritually. All my socials will be in the description of this podcast. And yeah, looking forward to helping all of those out there who are ready to answer their call because the time was yesterday, like I said.
That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, do not hesitate and check him out at the Conscious Man 7 on the show. The descriptions on the show and on the links are all going to be there as well. Dude, I'm going to be very honest with you. Now, on the show, a lot of people, and I'm going to say this because I have to put the disclaimer out because people are going to be like, whoa, Trebs, you always look at things, you try to always look at things, at least on the show, through a Christian lens, through a Christ believer lens, right? And I do. But I also have a disclaimer in the beginning of the show that says all of my guests that come in have a very different point of view of life. However, they have a message of forgetting self-sabotage and growing and living a more righteous pathway. I might not agree how they initiate, but respect is always on this frequency, and which is why I had Conscious Man 77 on today, because he has a message of growth and avoiding self-sabotage. And that's what your baseline is. Avoiding all this issue and then later on evolving to what you want to be evolved to. So, thank you so much for spending the time here today. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, do not forget to drop a 5-star rating on the podcast and Spotify that allows other people to enjoy something as much as I enjoy making it. And guys, be humble, but don't you dare be invisible. Peace. Woo! That was freaking fire, bro. And we are done.